Blog Talk Radio.
Mysteries abound around the world, from strange lights in the night sky to ghostly apparitions passing from one realm to the next. From the great pyramids of Egypt to what lies beneath the depths of Loch Ness. From Bigfoot to Atlantis, they are all mysteries waiting to be solved. Join Laurie Phillips, Lauren Smith, Graz, and Billy Simmons as they search for the truth on Nite Callers Radio.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Nite Callers Bigfoot Talk Radio. Today is, it is October 19th, 2014, and we welcome everyone out there that's listening tonight, and we promise you a great show tonight. I'm here with Lauren Smith, Graz, and Billy Simmons, and we're here to bring you a great show. So, how are you guys doing tonight?
Doing pretty good.
Have everyone off the mute? Yeah. Hey, Lauren, are you the one that named all the callers?
Oh, did you catch that, did you?
Yes, I did. Okay. What?
Right. I've got a dingo.
Crikey. I'm going to have to find out what that means. I really am.
It's okay.
Yeah.
It's only
After
don't
the
worry
show.
about it. We got the rest of the week.
Well, Lauren, you went camping this weekend, and you had some action. So you're going to tell us about it?
We went to Greenleaf State Park, which is by Muskogee. No matter how long I'm here, I can't stop calling it Muskogee. I know, that's stupid. I do. I call it Muskogee every time. And people look at me like I'm an idiot. I'm like, what? Oh, Muskogee, yeah. And they're like, have you never heard the song? I'm like, well, yeah, but I've never had to say it till now. And they also have another one here. It's Coweta, and it's spelled like Cow-etta. And so I'm like, Cow-etta. And they're like, no, it's Coweta. Okay, anyway, it's one of those things, like if you live in an area and someone butchers the name of the area, you get offended. Anyway,
exactly.
So we went to Greenleaf State Park, and we drove down a little hiking trail, and then, we went into to a pretty good-looking area. It was on the side of a lake. It was really beautiful. The only drawback is we were across the lake from a public camping ground, and those people were having a really great fall break, and I'm just like, shut up. It was pretty frustrating, but that's me when I camp. I don't want anyone within 100 miles of me. So, but yeah, I don't know. I'm going to listen to my audio, but I may have had some rock clacking, and there was definitely a very large owl, and I say that because at first I thought it was an owl, and then the owl sounded off, and the whole woods came alive with howls, and I was just like, oh my God, that wasn't an owl. So I'm really hoping I got that on audio so I can get it uploaded for next week's show or something like that. We can all listen to it. So
that would be great.
Yeah,
that would be great. Well, Billy, any catastrophes this week? I know you've had one every week. Are you well and children well and everybody doing okay, Bill?
I'm a little better. I'm still singing the "They Won't Take My Gallbladder Out" blues for another week. So I'm doing it again with a doctor Tuesday. I don't know. I guess if I'm doing the show live from the ER or the operating room, I'm actually doing a little better this week. But I've got to get in and see the doctor this week. Hopefully they'll hurry up and do something. So
It'll be all right.
Yeah.
How about you, Grass? How are you doing?
I'm doing all right. I'm still fluffing my nest, trying to get this apartment put together. I'm in no big hurry.
Obviously. How long have you lived there now? About a month and a half?
I'm in no big hurry.
No kidding.
Mm-mm.
He just didn't want to be labeled as an overachiever.
No, not at all. No, that would break a lot of precedent right there. No.
There you go.
This apartment's put together really well. No, I don't want.
Well, I haven't been up to much this week, so I don't really have anything to add. So it's just been a regular same old week. But I am getting ready to go camping. I'm getting everything together, and we've got 5 or 6 places we're all wanting to go, so it's going to be great. I just can't wait to get going. So I'm ready. I haven't been camping in almost a year, and it was last November that I went camping, and I think that's too long for anybody to go without camping. And
camping season's pretty much over here. We got the monsoon season starting. It's starting to rain and rain and rain. Hey, welcome to the rainforest.
Oh, man.
We went camping. I've been camping one time since Adam was born, since he's 2 now. And I put on my pair of jeans that I always used to wear when I went camping. They're kind of bigger so I can put my long johns on under them. And I put them on yesterday. It's kind of sad, but I pulled a receipt out of the back, and I said, man, I haven't worn these pants in so long. And I said, Ricky, let's see when this receipt's from. November 12th, 2012. Now, I don't know what's scarier, the fact that I haven't worn these jeans in that long and the fact that I didn't wash them before I put them up last night. My receipt was still in there. I don't know which is worse, but anyway, if that tells you, I have not been able to get out as much as I want to, and now that Adam's older, it should be a little bit easier on us. So,
yeah,
maybe I can start reporting back with some good stories and good research input more here lately.
I'm excited that you're starting to do research. I mean, I know you always used to go with me, and I wasn't the best mother to take her child and expose her to all the bigfooting and everything like that. And I never thought that you would ever truly take an interest on your own, and I'm glad that you are. I mean, she actually bought a recorder. That's just huge to me. I'm like, oh, she's going to be just like me. I'm so proud.
Yeah. So, well, I mean, I really enjoy it, and I mean, it's kind of nerve-wracking not going with you because I'm like, am I doing it right? Which I don't. Well, there's not a lot of ways to do it wrong, but it's really kind of fun going when you have booger bait. Your little 2-year-old booger bait, because that draws them in. So you're kind of, it's also kind of nerve-wracking, though, because I'm like, well, I don't want anything bad to go down. But everything was fine last night. It was, Adam crashed out, and all was quiet until after we went to bed, so I can handle that.
I heard that. Well, does anyone have anything to add before we introduce our guests for tonight? Okay.
I think we're ready to roll.
We're ready to roll. Okay, Lauren, if you don't mind reading that introduction, and we'll bring our guest on.
Okay. Billy, just to clarify, those jeans are cruel girl jeans. I don't know what you heard me say, but that's
what it sounded like. Not on this end.
Oh, God. I don't imagine what could have been worse than that. Cruel girl jeans, pair of pants.
Cruel, like cruel as in mean cruel?
Yeah, cruel girl.
It might be my connection. I'm not sure.
I hope nobody else heard me say that.
See, I'm still stuck on Lee jeans for women. You know, I mean, it's just, yeah.
Well, at least you can't mess up Lee into something bad, apparently, that Billy heard me say, so. All right. I need to enunciate and get more sleep before I do a show from now on. Okay. So, I'm going to go ahead and read the intro. Nite Callers presents Colorado Sasquatch Researcher Lonnie Gallegos. Am I saying that?
Gallegos.
Gallegos.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to call you Lonnie. That sounds great. All right.
Yeah,
Lonnie
we'll call him Lonnie.
Lonnie is an avid Bigfoot researcher. His first encounter was when he was just a young man. Only feet away from the beast had sparked an eternal fire in him to trail and understand. What exactly is this creature we know today as Bigfoot/Sasquatch? As he grew up, friends and family ridiculed him when he tried to make sense of his encounter. As a teenager, Lonnie began to embark on numerous expeditions on foot and horseback into southern Colorado/northern New Mexico Rockies, noting, investigating, and tracking the elusive being. As time went on, more and more people began to come forward with their experiences. In recent times, the internet and television has made Bigfoot an international sensation. Lonnie has created an adult discussion group via Facebook entitled Encounters with Bigfoot. All are welcome to join without fear of being ridiculed. Group members are now encouraged to come forward with their chance meetings and share knowledge with one another. You can find all the latest news and videos and photos concerning Bigfoot/Sasquatch in the group. Make sure and click on the Files section to read group member interactions with Sasquatch. Encounters with Bigfoot also has an entertaining page uploaded with daily color drawings and Bigfoot-related paraphernalia. Don't forget to click like and share. Join us tonight as Lonnie shares his experiences with everyone. It's going to be a great show.
Thank you for that introduction. Lonnie, are you with us?
Yes, I sure am.
How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing pretty good. I was just, you reminded me of my Lee pants that I have somewhere in my closet from earlier. You guys are talking about Lee pants?
Oh, yes.
I think I have a pair somewhere stashed.
Lee pants? I know. Levi, Lee. Yeah. It's now they've got all these weird names and Cruel Girl. Oh, my goodness. I guess that's not something a woman my age would wear, but. Well, we're so glad that you were able to come on tonight, and we're really looking forward to hearing more about you. I'm going to go ahead and start out asking generally what I usually ask at the beginning of the interview is, how did this all begin for you?
Well, it began on a hunting trip when I was a young man. I was around between 10 and 12 years old. My father used to go deer hunting every year behind Pikes Peak here in Colorado. And I was already kind of getting to that age where I wanted to go with them and stuff. And he would tell me, no, not yet. And finally he says, you know, the hunting season's coming up one year, and he says, I'm going to be going and whatnot. And I'm begging him, Dad, can I go be with the guys? And he says, yeah, you go ahead and come with us. So went hunting with them. And to make a long story kind of short, we were up in the mountains hunting. There was deer everywhere, hunters everywhere, and very exciting. I was excited, and we weren't having much luck. A lot of gunshots going off. A lot of people everywhere. The deer were already snapped to hunters, and were hiding a lot, and it was hard to hunt. And we landed up driving down a a canyon that turned into a Jeep trail, and there wasn't any tracks recent, so we decided to drive down it. And sure enough, we landed up meeting up with a couple of bucks and a deer. And my father had a buck tag and I had a doe tag. And my uncle shot the doe, and my father and I were undecided whether or not the bucks were big enough for a legal kill. At the time, it was a 4-point restriction, so they had to be 4 points or bigger. And we couldn't tell. They weren't that big, but they had horns. So my uncle kills the doe, and the bucks take off running up the mountain. So it was me, my father, my uncle, and a cousin of the family. My uncle and the cousin stayed gutting the doe, and me and my dad took off after the deer up on the mountain. And they probably stayed about 100 yards ahead of us the whole time. And they would watch us for a little bit, and when we'd run up to where they were at, they would run another 100 yards up, and then they'd be watching us again. And the minute we caught sight of them, they'd give us about 2 seconds, and then they'd turn around and run. So we were still unsure whether they were legal to kill, and we didn't want to take the chance. So anyways, we get to the top of this mountain finally. The deer are looking at us, and they jump over, and we get up on top. And I'm pretty sure I was slowing down my father. I was, 10 or 12 years old. And he told me to stay put up there, that he didn't think they were big enough, and he was going to go on over by himself and have a look-see. So now I'm just sitting on top of this mountain, excited, waiting to hear a gunshot, from my father and whatnot. And just sitting around and just observing. And to the left of me, about maybe 60 yards, there was a cluster of boulders, pretty good-sized boulders, about the size of a Dodge pickup, maybe a full-size Dodge pickup. And I noticed there was something reddish-brown among them. And at first I didn't pay no attention. I just thought it was odd because it was a different color. There was nothing anywhere near that color. And I ignored it and just sat there on the hill waiting. And I remember there was a strong breeze that would come by about every 2 minutes, and everything would shake, and my hair would sway in the wind and all that. Then it would be dead calm for a couple of minutes, no wind or nothing, and then it would come again every so many minutes. And other than that, it was a clear day. So anyways, I'm sitting there, and, maybe 10 minutes or so that went by, and I was just looking around, being quiet, and I was looking in that area again where I saw that reddish-brown thing in the boulders. And when I was looking over there, the wind blew by, and I noticed this thing move with the wind. So, now I was curious to what it was. So I stay watching it, and I'm looking at it. And I finally realized that what I'm looking at is a huge hairy arm. And I was amazed and still in disbelief. So I stay watching it, and I'm like, yes, that's a big arm. I could see fingers. I could see the hair. And, I was still about 60 yards away, but, I could see it. So being young and dumb, curious, I went over there and I crept up to it. And what I saw, I got about 3 or 4 feet from it. And what I saw, yeah. What I saw was a huge arm, and it was hugging a boulder, and it was hiding. It must have, I don't know if it saw us running up the mountain, it heard the gunshot. To me, I feel that it was hiding. It could have been sleeping. I'm not really sure, but it was in between the boulders, like clearly hiding, or like a mountain lion does when they want to go to sleep. They find a nice den somewhere quiet, nobody knows where they're at. That's what it kind of reminded me. Just he wanted to be hiding. So, anyways, I'm looking at it, and what I see is a left arm and a left hand, and I could. It was hiding in between boulders, like he just wedged himself, I guess, in between some, the best that it could. And I could see see a left knee also, and I'm behind this creature, so its back is to me, thank God. And so I'm looking at about from the elbow to the tips of the fingers. I'm looking at this arm, and like I said, it's about maybe 8 feet in front. I could see this huge monster knee, and about maybe about a foot past the knee on both sides, and that was it. That's all I could see of this creature. So, I didn't know nothing about Bigfoot at the time. It was just a word. My family hunts quite a bit in the mountains all their life. They never mentioned Bigfoot or anything about Bigfoot. So I wasn't sure what I was looking at. So anyways, I'm looking at it, and I'm trying to make sense of what I am staring at. What I'm seeing is hair on this arm, and it's about 3 or 4 inches long, and it's reddish brown, and it's sticking straight up. It's not combed real pretty or nothing. It's just sticking straight up. And then I look at the hand, and the hand is huge, like the size of an adult's baseball mitt, very, very big. It had wrinkles. The hand was dark gray, and the fingernails, they were not claws, they were not pointy, they were fingernails, but they were black. And it had 5 fingers, but I don't remember no hair on the palm. I just remember the hair starting from the wrist and going on up the arm, and then the hair on the knee was also the same length and the same color. And that's all I could see. So I'm looking at it, and I'm telling myself, is this real? I even remember rubbing my eyes. I was like, this cannot be real. I'm rubbing my eyes. I'm looking at it. I'm like, yeah, it's the hand, it's an arm, and you could see this monster knee. That's when I knew it was extremely huge, because the knee was at least another 8 feet from me, and it was bent. So this thing was huge, and it still had several more feet that I could not see of this beast.
Well, Lonnie, as a boy, did this scare you, or were you just curious? How did you feel?
Well,
do you remember?
Yeah. At first, I was real curious. I was in awe. I was in disbelief. And then what happened is the wind blew by again, and that hair on the arm started swaying with the wind, and I freaked right there. I got scared. I took off running. I was screaming. In my mind, it was going to chase me and it was going to kill me. Being that young of a kid, it was a monster, a real life monster that I was right up on.
So you didn't connect that it was a Bigfoot. You thought it was a monster. At that age.
Yeah, at the time I thought it, well, I realized, I told myself, well, there's a name for it and it's Bigfoot. But at the time I just was in disbelief. It wasn't supposed to exist,
Right.
And here I am looking at it extremely close. At one point I even thought to touch the hand because it didn't move. It didn't twitch. The fingers didn't wiggle. The knee didn't move. It was just steel. And I almost touched the hand. I was like, I want to see if this thing moves. I even thought about walking around the boulders and coming face to face with it. I just was in disbelief. I was like, this can't be real. And when that wind blew by, it was real. And I took off running, screaming. I ran down for about a couple hundred yards. Then I could see my uncle and my cousin at the bottom of the canyon gutting the deer, and I right away started screaming and yelling. I wanted them to. In my mind, the creature was chasing me. It was going to chase me and kill me, especially when I started screaming because it had to have heard me. And I wanted to yell at them to let them know, hey, if something's behind me, you know why I'm dead. And they just kind of looked up at me, and they looked at me for a couple seconds, and I'm rotting and wailing, and they just looked back down, started gutting the deer.
They probably said, this is the last time we're bringing that boy on a hunt trip.
Yes.
Was this in Colorado where this occurred?
Yes, it was. It was behind Pikes Peak, near I don't know if you guys have ever heard of the fossil bed, I think it's a national monument.
Okay. No, I have not.
It's not very big. It's a little place that the Forest Service kind of preserved. There's some ancient fossilized trees, and it was near there, basically behind Pikes Peak.
What time of day was this?
It was, I'm going to say, from what I remember, it was maybe around 10 a.m.
Okay. Do you think that possibly because y'all took a road less traveled that maybe you surprised him and he was just hiding the best he could?
When I think about it now, I'm thinking that's what happened. See, and I've been deer hunting where you'll see a monster buck. Everybody's hunting, and the buck will be 100 yards off the road, sitting under a tree watching the traffic. And I've noticed this. I'm an avid hunter myself, and I've noticed that, especially with deer and elk, they don't want to burn energy. So if they could sit still and camouflage and blend in, you'll pass them right by. And I have a feeling that's what this guy was doing. He probably saw us running up, or he heard the gunshot and then saw us running up, and he just said, okay, I'm going to just stash out here in these boulders, and they'll go right by. And basically we did until I happened to see him.
So what happened after that? Did you explain later what you had seen, and how did your father react to that?
Yeah, I ran down the mountain. I caught up with my uncle and them, and I told my uncle, I'm adrenaline's pumping. I'm scared, excited, the whole 9 yards. And I tell my uncle, I said, Uncle, there's a Bigfoot up there. I'll show you. Take your rifle and let's go. I'll show you. And they look at me and, they kind of grin, silly kid, continue gutting the deer, and didn't believe me, just didn't even give me the time of day. So anyways, my father shows up about a half hour later or so, and I run up to him, Dad, did you see that Bigfoot up there? No. And it blew me off too. So I couldn't convince nobody to come up with me, and I would have showed him. So the rest of the weekend was horrible. I didn't want to scout around no more. I didn't want to get out the truck. I was having nightmares when we get back to camp in the camper. I couldn't sleep. I was afraid we were going to be attacked or something. It was terrifying, especially at that age.
I can imagine. Yeah. Did you go hunting after that, or did you back off hunting for a while?
I continued going hunting, but I was extremely leery, and I was frightened for many years out in the woods after that. I was always, any twig snapped, I'd turn around right away and want to investigate it. I didn't want to be outside in the dark at all. It was definitely traumatizing.
Gives you a whole new perspective.
I'm sorry?
That gives you a whole new perspective.
Oh, it sure did. And then my whole family, they laughed at me. I would try to tell cousins that I was close to, this is what happened. They look at me, laugh at me. Nobody believed me. The friend of the family, the cousin, he's a distant cousin, so I don't know if you call it friend or not, but he was kind of starting to listen to me when we're camping that particular weekend. He's like, well, maybe he did see something. My dad and them just were like, this kid's just seeing things, typical kid.
Yeah. And
my whole life, that's how it was growing up. It was a made up story, Since nobody else ever saw one, I was making it up, and I got laughed at, and then what kind of started. I even questioned myself, what did you really see this? What did you see? I think about it and I think about it, and I know what I saw. I know what I saw, period, and it was real. And then around that time, I don't remember exactly when, because like I said, I was still a kid, but I remember one evening watching the show Unsolved Mysteries with my father there in the living room, and it was about Bigfoot. And to boot, it was the episode was just near Pikes Peak in a little small town called Green Mountain Falls, just right under the base of Pikes Peak there. They were having trouble with some Bigfoots coming around in their town, and they landed up getting the locals there were able to get some hair, and they sent it in for analysis, and it came back as half, I believe it was like half chimpanzee and half human. That's the closest they could relate it to. It wasn't either or, but that's what I guess the scientists or whatever, when they examined it, that was their findings. It was somewhat. Do
you remember how they got, what kind of DNA sample they used? Was it the hair?
Yeah, it was hair. Yeah.
Okay.
There was a gentleman that was seeing them outside his window at night. He would see from what I believe it was a mother and a juvenile, and they were hanging around at night, going around ransacking trash cans and stuff. And one of them had a trash can inside a porch, but he had a screen door and kind of like an enclosed porch. And one night he woke up because he heard a bunch of commotion and stuff. And when he got up and turned on the lights, the creature took off, but it left tufts of hair in the screen. And I believe that's what they sent off to the labs.
Okay.
And those creatures were also the same color as what I saw, like a reddish brown. That's what they were seeing up in that area too. So when we saw that episode, my dad right away turns and looked at me, and I said, "Do you believe me now, Dad? Says, Green Mountain Falls ain't that far from where we were hunting." And so he was starting to kind of, well, maybe he saw something.
Yeah.
But that's all it took to get the fire lit under me and research this creature, and I've been hooked ever since.
Wow. Well, that's just an amazing story. As a teenager, you began to go on expeditions on foot and horseback, right? Is that correct?
Yes.
Is that when you actually began to research? Is when you were a teenager?
Yeah, when I got a little bit older. Well, I mean, I would try to catch any TV show. I'd read books. Growing up, I'd go to the library at school. Anything on Bigfoot, I'm trying to learn about it. You know, I had nobody to turn to at the time. This was the early 90s.
Yeah,
you know,
before internet really took off. Yeah.
Yeah. So I had, I didn't know anybody else that had ever seen one. So I'd go to the local library at school or whatnot and try to get books. I'd watch anything I could on TV. I remember Sightings. You remember that show, Sightings? I would watch that, hoping just to see anything on Bigfoot. And so I started kind of investigating. And then, when I became a little bit older and stuff, was able to drive and able to go out on my own into the woods, I started doing that. I leave my parents. My parents have a ranch in southern Colorado, and they're just a couple of miles from the forest. From they're right at the foothills, so they're real close to the forest. So I would saddle up. They have a couple of horses. I had a horse there. I'd saddle him up when I'd get bored as a teenager, and within 20 minutes I was in the forest, and it was nice. So I was always keeping my eyes and ears open. I went several times by myself. With really, every time I looked for the creature, I didn't really have luck. But there's been several occasions when I wasn't looking for him that I had eerie encounters, I guess you would call it. Just when I wasn't looking, then something odd would happen, kind of Bigfoot related.
Right. How would you explain it as being eerie? I'm curious about that. Why was it eerie?
Well,
just the way you felt, or?
Well, okay. Around 2007, my grandfather, he's getting up in age, and I went to visit him that summer of 2007, and he burns firewood to heat his home. we're right there by the mountains, and hey, there's wood, save you a little money. Go ahead and burn firewood. So he was raised burning firewood, and he loves to burn firewood. So I says, Grandpa, I'm down here for a couple of days. I was living in Colorado Springs, and they're living in about a 3 hours drive in a little town called San Luis, Colorado. So I came down to visit him and the parents, and I says, Grandpa, let's go get a load of wood. I'll get you it. Oh, no, that's okay. I says, no, come on. I know you've been buying it from people and spending money. I says, let's go up. I'll do all the work. We'll throw in the fishing poles, and maybe we'll do a little fishing because we used to love fishing. So once I mentioned fishing poles, he was all for it. So he packed the saws and the fishing poles, and we took off on his truck, and we went up to the mountains. So we get up to the mountains, and it's about noon, and we find a really nice, huge aspen tree that's been falled over, and a nice tree for firewood. So we got out the truck to look at it, make sure it wasn't rotten or nothing, make sure it was good, and so I could start blocking it. And when we get out the truck, are you guys familiar with the Wainuchi screens?
The what?
The Wainuchi screens. Cliff Barrickman posted them a while back on his page.
Oh, okay.
They're a gentleman, I believe, in Washington recorded some. The only way I could describe them is peacock-sounding type screens. When we got out the truck, I heard something, and it sounded almost like a peacock, but it was very far from us. But I could hear it echoing. I could hear it echoing through the forest. And I'm, Grandpa, what the heck is that? I've been in the woods all my life. My grandfather has been up in the woods all his life. And sadly, on account of his age, he couldn't hear it. So I'm walking around, and I could just, it sounded like a peacock. I was trying to think of every animal in the book to what it was. And I up until a couple of weeks back, I didn't know what it was. And anyways, I was going through Cliff Barrickman's page one day, and I was checking out some sounds and stuff, and I clicked on play on one of them. And lo and behold, what this gentleman recorded up there in Washington State was the exact same screams that I had heard that day with my grandfather.
Wow.
And, and they're called the Wainuchi screams. And
how do you spell that, do you think? W-Y-N-O-O-C-H-E-E. I don't think I've ever heard of those ones, and I live up here.
Oh, yeah. Well, I just saw it, recently on his page, and it says that I just kind of breezed through it, but apparently they were recorded in 2010, and the gentleman that recorded it was asleep. And when he went back to his audio, he heard them, or he had captured it on audio. But, yeah, if you get a chance, check that out. That's exactly what I heard that day with my grandfather. And I never knew until now that it was possibly Bigfoot related.
Wow.
But, yeah, that's one of the instances where I wasn't looking for the creature or even bothering to squatch, and all of a sudden, there was activity.
Go ahead. I have another question for you when you get ready.
Oh, go ahead.
Okay. Well, my question for you was, did you ever finally meet some other people that had Sasquatch encounters that you finally could relate to somebody about what happened to you?
Yes, finally. Not too many, in person. But, I started meeting a few people, especially when Facebook came around. I finally found, others, so to speak. That Facebook was a big game changer for me. I met a lot of people, and I was talking to a lot of people, and, you're not crazy, Lonnie. I'm not crazy. We both know we're not crazy. And became friends with a lot of people on account of, Facebook, and that really got me going with exploring more and more about Bigfoot and Sasquatch. And also, I met another individual. He was my at the time I was going to a chiropractor, and this is probably about maybe 6 years ago. And I was going to a chiropractor, and we got to talking and stuff, and he asked me, where I was from, and I told him, I said, but I'm living in Colorado Springs now, and I asked him where he was living, and he says, I'm living over there by Pikes Peak. And I had mentioned to him, I said, when I was a kid, I saw Bigfoot back there, and I left it as that, and he, okay. So anyways, I saw, that was it. He didn't say nothing. He just continued working me. He worked me for another half hour, and I went home. Anyways, the next week I had a few appointments with him. The next week I met him again. He starts working my shoulder and stuff, and he tells me, I was checking the internet, and there's a lot of Bigfoot sightings there behind Pikes Peak. And I says, and I hadn't had the internet at the time yet. And I was like, oh, really? He goes, yeah, I was checking it out. And I says, oh, well, that's cool. I might have to look into that. So anyways, he's working my shoulder and stuff, and he just blurts it out. He goes, I saw one. And then, he didn't say nothing, but he was so serious and so calm. And I says, yeah? and he goes, yeah. And I says, well, where? Over there by Pikes Peak? And he goes, no. He goes, he kind of didn't want to tell me, but then I got it out of him. He was telling me that he was a Boy Scout in Rocky Mountain National Park over there on the other side of Boulder there in Colorado. And he was in Boy Scouts, and he was a young kid. And he said that they're playing a game called Capture the Flag. And apparently, from what he told me, is they divided the troop in half. Half of them went up the mountain and were hiding, and the flag was on top of the mountain, and the other half had to go capture it. So, and the idea was is if you get caught by your enemy, your opponent, you were out and you had to walk back down the mountain. So you didn't want to get caught. You had to be sneaky, and they were all trying to get this flag. So, anyways, he said he was pretty snapped back then, and when it was time for them to go get the flag, all of his buddies took off one direction. He decided to go the other way and go up the mountain from the back side. So he said that he would run, and then he would stop and look around, make sure nobody was there to spot him. He'd run a little bit more up the mountain, stop, try to stay quiet, didn't want to be seen, and his goal was to make it to the top of the mountain, get that flag. So anyways, he said he was about halfway up, and there was boulders also, and he said that he was running, he stopped, and he was looking around, and he said he saw a face behind a boulder. So he says the first thing he did is he got behind his boulder. So he squatted down right away. And then he says he started thinking, he was like, well, that was an odd face. So he says he peeked back up over the boulder, and he says there was a face. And I says, okay, I need some more detail, what do you mean the face? He goes, well, there was a face behind another boulder, and it was just looking at me. And I says, well, describe it. And he says, well, the eyes were sunken in, and it looked just like a monkey. And I says, okay, so what did you do? He goes, well, I ducked back down again, and I picked up a rock. And he was a young man at the time, too. And he says he looked back over it, and it was just staring right at him. It wasn't moving or nothing. And he threw the rock at it. And he says he almost hit it because he says it flinched. And he says when it flinched, it scared the you-know-what out of him, and he took off running back down the mountain. So, but he also described the cone head, eyes sunken in, said it looked just like a monkey. And I asked him, I says, well, give me details. He didn't really want to talk about it. And from what I got out of him is it was squatting behind a boulder as well, and must have seen him running up. And like I says, if an animal doesn't have to burn energy and they could just squat down or stay quiet and stay still, you'll go right by him. And this guy had already went by him, but he stopped and started looking around, and that's when he saw it. But he had to have been pretty close because he says he almost hit it. And to be a kid to throw a rock, you ain't going to throw it that far. So he was pretty close to it. And when he said it flinched, he was gone. But yeah, I met people here and there with their stories, and just awesome.
Okay. Well, we were at that intermission mark. So we're going to take a break and let our guest go get a glass of water or wring his hands out or whatever he needs to do over this break.
I'll come if you go.
Just take it. Yeah. You're doing a wonderful job, Lonnie. We are really enjoying hearing what you have. Yes. Anyway, we're going to go to intermission. After intermission, we're going to be taking calls, so anybody that wants to call in and talk to Lonnie, ask him a question, or if they have something to add to what Lonnie has to say, be sure to call in. The number is 347-989-0313. That's 347-989-0313. And be sure to press 1 to talk to the host. Okay, we'll be back after this intermission, everyone.
If only you believe like I believe, baby.
I love that song. Welcome back, everybody, and this is for Lauren. I won't try to explain that.
Oh, my God.
That's back from the Bigfooting days when we were experimenting, and I got some squeaky toys, and they don't like squeaky toys, so okay, fine. I got one sitting here on my desk, just as a memory. Lauren calls it my pink thing. I don't know why.
It's pink.
Well, we won't go into that at any rate.
Well, he never fails to squeak it on cue. You say a little pink thing and squeak, squeak. I mean, instantly, it's like he walks around with it.
I love my little pink thing.
Still doesn't sound right.
Yeah, well, you get my age, you gotta.
Yeah.
Lonnie, you there?
Yes, I am.
Oh, well, welcome back, sir.
Thank you.
For the sake of the newbies, people who are just starting out, ever since it's Finding Bigfoot and Monster Quest and all that stuff has come out, everybody's out there with their camping gear or whatever, trying to find something. They don't know exactly what they're doing half the time. You started out from scratch. You didn't have any background in it. You had no way of contacting anybody about it. You learned on your own over time. When you get out there, before you even start into the woods, you've got a plan in mind about how you, I mean, you have to hike.
Correct.
You got a plan in mind about how you go out there. Your eyes are going to be looking for certain things. You're going to be looking back and forth as you're walking. Your ears are open. I mean, ever since you saw one, your perspective on the woods has opened up.
Yeah.
So how do you explain that to somebody who's never experienced a Bigfoot, and how do you go about just looking for evidence?
Well, I'm fortunate to have horses, and you could cover so much ground on horseback. And for the most part, horses they're fairly quiet. You kind of know which terrain is going to make noise and which terrain that you want to go through, where you're going to be very quiet and stealthy. Definitely, most animals in general are quiet. Animals don't want to know that you're there. They don't want other animals knowing that, predator and prey. Predator wants to be quiet to catch prey. Prey wants to be quiet so they don't get caught by predator. So the natural instinct for most animals is, especially deer and elk and bear and whatnot, it's most of the time it's, quiet. The woods are always quiet. Of course, you have birds and all that making racket, whatever, but in general, animals are quiet in nature. So I tend to be quiet. Like you said, the guys on some of these shows nowadays making all that racket and all that. I don't usually do that. I go in quiet. I look for signs. I generally go where a lot of game is at, where the deer and elk are hanging out. It's a potential food source, so I'll definitely go up in those areas. And just, there's so many places they could hide or rest. It is like looking for a needle in a haystack. So most of the time I don't expect to see nothing, and most of the time I haven't seen nothing. But with the way things have been working out for me, it's the times I wasn't really trying to look for it, I had some sort of activity. So basically what I would have to say to people is, especially somebody who hasn't seen one, is you can't give up right away. If you're trying to find it, if you see tactics that people are using on TV and they ain't having much luck, in my opinion, don't use those tactics.
Don't use those tactics, yeah.
Yeah, making all kinds of noise in the woods isn't going to bring animals most of the time. It's going to push them away.
Mm-hmm.
But, to each his own. If you have an idea that might work, calls, Scooby-Doo calls are great. Call Blast Scooby-Doo. You just might get a response. Haven't you seen how Scooby-Doo does his laugh and all that? Give that a shot. You just might get a response. I usually don't do any of the call blasting and all that stuff. I go in quiet. I look for sign. I go in the areas where there's a lot of prey. I had an encounter with my father. Let's see here. I'm trying to get I believe it was in 2012. I don't know how much time I have, but I've got another possible encounter that happened with me and my father back in 2012.
Yes, please tell us about it. You have time. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Well, I'm not sure if this. Okay. I'll just tell you what happened. I've been living in Colorado Springs. The parents' ranch is a 3-hour drive up in the mountains. Small community, small town, and I don't get back home as much as I'd like. So in 2012, the parents were asking, me and my sister, we could come down to the ranch for Christmas time and whatnot, and so I made it down for Christmas time, and there was snow on the ground and all that, and my father had asked me if I wanted to go take a horse ride with him. I hadn't been around, and I'm pretty sure he wasn't riding with too many other people, and sometimes it's nice to have another person riding with you instead of riding by yourself in the mountains and stuff, and it's also could be a safety issue. If you can, at least ride in pairs. I had the habit, and my father had the habit of going in by ourselves. So I didn't really want to go with them. It was cold. It was a winter's day. There was snow on the ground, but I says, well, I'll go. I'll go with you, Dad. So I bundle up and stuff. He bundles up, and we saddle up the horses, and we left the ranch. So about 20 minutes later, we're starting to hit timber. We're going into some area that usually we know elk and deer hang around, and that particular day we weren't seeing nothing. So we saw a little bit of track here and there, and we're just going for a ride. I was just riding and just hanging out and whatnot, and so we went in further and further into the forest, and it was getting cold. The snow was getting deeper. The poor horses were getting tired. With me on top of his back, plus fighting a couple of feet of snow, it's not easy on the horses either. And then it was cold. So we were kind of running into some private property, and my father says, well, why don't we cut down this particular canyon through some private property here, and we'll be able to make it to the main road, and we'll take them, because, the snow was deep, we'll take the main road back down to the ranch. And I was like, that's a great idea, and then at the private property, there's no houses or nothing. It's fenced off and whatnot, but there's no houses, there's nobody up there, there's too much snow. So I was like, great idea, Dad. So we started heading down this canyon, and the snow is just getting deep. It's starting to hit the horse's chest. It's rubbing on the stomach. It was really deep in this canyon, and cold. So anyways, we're heading down this canyon, and we catch an old mountain road, and we start following the road, and my father's probably about 15 feet in front of me. And I'm just looking around. I was like, I still can't believe we haven't seen, a nice bull elk, a nice buck. So, I'm just looking around, and I'm like, they got to be around here. They're always here, So I noticed we drop in this canyon, and we're heading north. And on the west side of this canyon, the snow was melted where the sun had been. It was just like a perfect area where the sun was shining in this pocket of the canyon. And all the snow was melted. It was the only place that didn't have snow. And I said, there's got to be deer or something in there. It says, because they got to eat. So as we're heading down, I'm looking west into this thicket, and then it turned in, and then there's grass and stuff in between, and it was dry. And sure enough, I saw a deer. So I kind of whistle on my dad. Hey, Dad, look, finally we see some something out here. So signs of life. So he stops and I stop, and we start looking, and sure enough, or you know it, you start seeing 2, 3, 4, 5 deer. They're just staying still, and they blend right into the mountain. And so we stay watching them and stuff, and for about maybe a minute or two, And then all of a sudden, my father says, there's somebody on the hill. So, just like Mr. Moneymaker, somebody on the hill. So I turn and I'm like, where? He's all, it's moving. He's moving. And I'm like, shit. Excuse my language. We're in private property.
It's PG-13, so it's all right.
Oh, great. So the first thing that came to my mind is, oh man, I don't want to get into any riffraff because we're cutting through some private property just to get out of here. But I told myself, this snow is up to my horse's belly. There is no way anybody is up here. And there was no sign of nothing the whole time. There's just no way. So anyways, I'm like, where, Dad, where? He's all, he's moving. So he's pointing up on the mountainside on the east side. And finally I see it. And what I saw was, the only way I could explain it, it looked like an 8 to 9 foot tall creature, and it was staring at us. And like when somebody's running track and they just ran 2-3 laps, and they're trying to catch their breath, so they bend over and they put their hands on their knees and they're catching their breath. That's what this creature looked like it was doing. It was kind of bent over. It had its hands on its knees, and it was just staring at us. And it was far. It was about maybe 1,000 yards or so from us. It was on top of the mountain, but it was big, and it was in between some trees. And
did you say he was staring at you, or he was staring down at his knees?
No, from what I saw, it was staring at us. But that's the position it was in. It was like kind of hunched over with his hands on his knees and just looking straight at us.
Okay.
If that makes any sense.
Yes, it does.
So I'm looking at it, and it's massive. It's extremely wide. It's huge, and I'm like, I can't believe this. And my father, he's kind of freaking out. He wanted out of there. He says that he saw it moving. I never saw it move. When I caught sight of it, it was just staying still, and in the position that it was, and it looked like it was just watching us. So anyways, he wanted out of there, and the first thing I did was, I want a damn picture finally. I'm getting a picture. So here I am going through my saddlebags looking for my wife's camera, and I said, oh man, I forgot the camera. She has this great zoom. I would have zoomed right into this puppy. I would have had some great shots of it. So here I am fumbling through the saddlebags, and I'm like, oh man, dude, you forgot the camera. We had no binoculars. It was, just kind of supposed to be a short ride. Totally unprepared again. And so I never got
everybody, so don't beat yourself up too much.
I'm still beating myself, but so we continued on, and I watched it the whole time. We continued on down the canyon. I never saw it move. My father says he saw it move. So to me, 50% of me says it was a possible stump, a broken stump. 50% says, yeah, it was one. Still, it was just one of those instances where it's like, I just don't know what I saw.
Yeah.
But that was one of the most recent encounters that I've had lately.
Do you ever camp out there in the mountains?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Oh, you do? And do you ever have anything occur when you're camping out?
One time back in that particular area, yeah. I'm going to say it was probably around maybe 2003, 2002. I was camping with a friend, and it was summertime and whatnot. And I had an ATV at the time, and we'd go fishing and stuff and goof off on the bike. When we left camp, I would always I'd get the grill and I'd walk, 30, 40 yards, hide the grill, hide the chainsaw, you know, because anybody could have just drove by and took our stuff.
Exactly.
So,
yeah,
so I'd go and I'd hide my stuff, and then we'd go out fishing for the day. Well, one particular day, I went and came back from fishing, and I went and started getting all my stuff and bringing it back to camp. And that night, by the fire and stuff, it got dark. I could hear branches and stuff breaking, you know, just outside the firelight and whatnot. And I assumed it was a bear, because there is bears around. And you know, I heard a lot of branches breaking. I knew something was out there. I just didn't know what. So, anyways, the next morning, nature called. So I went about maybe 20, 30 yards in the bush, and a particular area where I'd been setting my gear in, there was like an opening in between the willows. And the day before, when I went through there, the grass was probably about 2 feet tall, and it was standing straight up. Well, the next day when I went over there, it was all flattened out, and I could smell a pungent smell. And so I started examining, and it was real grassy. I mean, there's no way you could find a track or nothing. But it was about a 20-foot diameter opening in between the willows, a patch of grass, and it was all completely flat. And the first thing I told myself, this was not flat yesterday, and why is this flat? And so, you know, I'm looking around. I could smell something in the air, or something was there. And I turn around, and there's a perfect view of my camp. And
wow.
And I was like, whatever this was, sat here and was watching us. And it had a perfect view. It was still in between the willows, enough to hide and to be concealed. But it was, I guess, you know, how we watch TV, it was watching us. We were at TV. It had a nice place to sit, if that was one.
Well, you know, I've had some of the same kind of experiences where I would hear something out there at night while I was camping, and then the next day I would find the same thing, and I thought the same thing, that it was possibly a Sasquatch just laid up there watching us. You know, I'm sure we were much more interesting than just looking at trees and branches.
Yeah.
And they are curious. So, you know, I can't see a deer doing that or any other kind of animal doing that. It just seemed feasible that it probably was a Sasquatch. But, you know, if you don't see it, you can't say it was.
Yeah.
If there's no evidence there like hair or footprint or anything else, you can't really say it is. But then you try to think about what it probably wasn't.
Yeah.
So we have a question, Lonnie from Purple Rose from the chat. She says, Lonnie, any particular season they are more visible?
Oh, in my experiences, I would have to say maybe around fall time.
Okay.
And
so you say that's the most active time is in the fall?
In this particular area or in general?
Well, she's basically asking any particular season they are more visible. I don't know if she's meaning there are more sightings or what. What do you think it means, Grass?
It's more of a general question, I'd say.
Okay, it's a general question, Lonnie.
From my experiences, I would probably have to. I mean, most of the time it's going to be a chance encounter, but I would have to say the fall. Just like any other animal, they're trying to fatten up before winter. They're going to be a little bit more active. They're trying to pack on the extra pounds. They're going to be moving around a lot. So I would have to say, around this time, around the fall.
Okay.
Have you been doing this long enough to notice any patterns in your general area? As far as, the patterns of elk migration, deer migration, being pushed down by the snow level, et cetera, where Bigfoot would possibly be following them down the snow level, that kind of thing?
Yeah, that's correct. they're going to be following the deer and the elk that migrate lower as the snow gets deeper up in the high country. They're forced to go down, and I believe they also, well, they do what they want, but I believe if they're a particular, if they're hunting elk and they're surviving off of elk, they're going to be following them, and they're going to be in a lower elevation as well.
Rose was she specified she wanted to know in Colorado if you would know the answer to this. Are there more sightings in the fall than any other time of the year?
You know, I know I don't want a yes or a no answer to that. I've heard of more reports that were in the fall and in the wintertime, because the snow's pushing them down, you know, more towards people and civilization. So they're heading down more towards people in the wintertime and in the fall. In my opinion, I would say yes, that they're more active around the fall and the wintertime, and your chances are greater to see them. If you're in the mountains and you're able to cruise around the roads and whatnot, or just in general, if you're near elk or deer, I believe your chances will increase some of seeing more activity as winter's pushing down the animals to lower elevations.
One good question was just asked about whether or not your horses took any notice of Bigfoot when you were with your dad. That was something that was popping around in my head too. As you're out there riding around, do you ever notice any tension in your horses, or their ears pop up and they're looking in certain directions, that kind of thing?
Yeah, I do. But they're used to it. They're used to being around the elk and the deer, and they know the scent. And generally, they get a little fidgety and then come to find out you end up running into some deer, some elk. So if you do look for those signs, it can help you, especially because you know they smell better and hear better. But yeah, if you look for those signs and you kind of know your animals, when they start getting a little fidgety, you know something's around, and you know you just don't know what it is, if it's a deer, elk, Bigfoot. But yeah, you definitely will. If you're aware and snap to your horse and his little ways and how he responds, it could definitely help you to locate even another rider.
What about that particular incident when you and your father were out in that deep snow? Did your horses react that day when you thought you may have saw something up on the hill?
No. They were upset because we were dragging them through a bunch of snow. I felt so bad.
Yeah.
We were just plowing through it, and these poor guys were working hard. They were sweating. They could care less. If there was something on the hill, they could care less about the deer. They wanted out of there. They wanted to go home. No, I would have to say at that particular day they weren't even aware that whatever was there was there.
So we have a question from Purple Rose again. She wants to know, Lonnie, have you seen Bigfoot faces? Are they all one type, or are there dog or baboon faced ones? And have you seen are all of them like Patty of the Patterson film? You've never even seen a face, have you?
I have not.
Okay.
Okay. So, well, from what I've explored and looked into, and from hearing other people, my take on it is it looks similar to a gorilla. It's got the flat nose, it's got the brow ridge, it's got the cone head. The eyes are sunken in. I'm sure, just like us, they all might vary, you know, in color, facial, but basically they're all going to look similar to a gorilla, in my opinion. The face, basically, yeah, like the Patterson footage, similar to that.
Okay, when you were talking about earlier about this unsolved mysteries that you watched, and this city or town near Pikes Peak was having problems with Bigfoot, what kind of problems were they having? Were the Bigfoot being aggressive, or just terrorizing the people, or what was going on? Do you recall that?
Yeah, they did a few interviews with some of the locals, and one gentleman, he was watching TV at night with his kid, and he noticed two of them outside just wandering around, just saw them walking. So the next morning he went outside and he found the tracks, and he noticed they didn't have shoes on, their toes. Mm-hmm. So and then they interviewed other locals there, and another gentleman says one ran right in front of him, and there's cabins everywhere. They just ran across the road in the time. And then the other one where they got the hair sample, if I remember correctly, they had a trash can out on the porch, but the porch was enclosed, and it had like a screen door, and apparently the Bigfoot opened the screen door and was rummaging through his trash. It probably smelled some sort of food, and the guy heard it, probably assumed it was a bear. By the time he got over there and stuff, turned on the lights, it took off. It probably snapped that the guy was coming, and when it took off, it left hair in the screen door. I don't believe that they were terrorizing anybody. I think they're very similar to bear. And their diet is similar to a bear. They're scavengers. They're always on the move, looking for food. I believe most of the time they're solitary, except maybe around mating time. Females hang around with their kids until they're a certain age. But I believe their eating habits and their daily habits are similar to a bear. I don't believe they hibernate, though. I don't think they sleep during the winter. They're still out and about foraging.
Winters are pretty harsh in Colorado, wouldn't you say? They're pretty harsh. And would you think that maybe they migrate further south during the winter? Because food has to be, I don't know. I guess game would still be available in the dead of winter, I suppose. But do you think it's possible that they may leave the area during the harshest parts of the winter and then return? Or what do you think they do? What is your opinion on it? I mean, you couldn't absolutely know for sure, but what do you think?
My opinion is in the wintertime, they're probably if they eat elk and deer, they're probably going to follow the elk and keep their distance from people and whatnot, if as much as possible. But they're going to follow the food. Wherever the food is, that's probably where you're gonna find them.
Right.
I've heard about the migration theory. I don't know. My opinion is they're just gonna follow the food. If the food is heading 3,000-4,000 feet lower in elevation, where it's warmer and less snow, that's they're gonna be following them, in my opinion.
See, Graz, do you have another question for Lonnie?
No, not really. I agree with what he was saying about that. That's why I asked him about that. We have the same problem with one of our towns called North Bend, where the snow level reaches a certain level, they'll go down into the lower levels and follow the deer and follow the elk. And North Bend has always had problems with them rummaging around their trash cans and stuff. But the people won't talk about it. They'll acknowledge that it's there, but they won't tell you anything about it.
Yep.
That's why I asked that question about if you think they go down to the lower levels. Because they have to follow the deer and the elk, and the deer and the elk aren't going to be able to do that 3-foot depth of snow too well any more than a horse could. So it's good. They're going to go down.
Yeah. And most animals, they don't. If nobody, human or animal, likes to walk through 3-4 feet of snow. Animals don't want to burn any more extra calories that they need to. It's just, common sense that, the animals head down lower in elevation. Why not Bigfoot? And but like I say, I believe they're very similar. Their patterns are similar to a bear also. They scavenge. If you got a trash can out there and you threw away a half pork chop the night before and he's smelling it, why wouldn't he come and get it? I mean, it's easy food. He's hungry. He's got to eat.
It's risky, though, I would think, Go ahead, Grass.
No, I was just saying, local Taco Bell, local McDonald's, whatever. Well, maybe not McDonald's. Even they're smart enough for that. But Taco Bell possibly, or, some of those places. They're going to hit up the dumpsters every once in a while. They're no different than a bear. If they get the munchies or something like that and they haven't found anything for a couple of days, they may just jump on something that's easy, somebody's backyard.
I mean, for the most part, they're going to avoid a city. But if there's a town and it's in his area of where he lives, it's in his neck of the woods, he's hungry, and hunting hasn't been great. We back at the parents' house, we got bears coming in all the time, especially now fattening up for the winter. Most of the time, the bears want nothing to do with us, but when winter's time's coming, they're looking for anything, and if you get hungry enough, you're gonna get brave and go near a house or try to get some dog food, or I would say that hunger is going to make them do things that they normally don't do, which means that if he's hungry, he's starving, he hasn't found no game lately, and you have some trash cans and he smells something, I wouldn't put him past him to check it out.
Well, there's a lot of people have been saying all along that their habits are a lot like bear.
I agree with that totally, except for the hibernation. I don't think they hibernate, but they forage just like a bear. Whether it's berries or meat, food is food, and the main goal is survival.
Lori 103 has a question for you, and we're getting down to the last few minutes of the show, so we've got time for one more question. Has anyone else in your area come face to face with a Bigfoot other than the chiropractor?
Well, I've talked to a few individuals. I have a buddy, Leon Drew. He lives in Cripple Creek, which is a little town just behind Pikes Peak, and he's claimed to have had, I believe, 3 or 4 different encounters with. See, he lives up there in the forest, so he's right up in there, and I believe he's came pretty close. He's had a few encounters where he's actually saw the face and saw more body than what I did. And so, every once in a while you meet up with people and that have had those close encounters like that, and we're lucky to capture a real good look at the face and the way it walks and moves and whatnot.
Okay. Well, I just have one final question for you.
All righty.
Okay. You're out there researching. Are you trying to find proof that they exist for you or for the general public, or trying to prove they exist to everyone else? What is your motive right now for going out and researching? I guess it would have to. Well, I know they're real. I've been out in the bush enough to know that they are real. If I do come across some great evidence, solid evidence, I would like to tell all the naysayers, look, here's some hair, here's here's this track that could take you to where, here's poop, I would definitely
it wouldn't be for me. It would be some of the naysayers and to the public. Yeah, look, it is real. Here's what I found. Now, can we go to the next step, which would be trying to put it on the endangered species list and protecting them. That would be my goal. Is to find evidence so the government can be aware and finally admit, okay, guys, yeah, it is real. Let's go ahead and do some sort of law to protect them, so they can't be hunted. So that's my goal, is to try to get evidence, good, solid evidence, to where scientists say, yeah, it's real. Let's go ahead and make a law and protect them.
Lonnie, you have been a most wonderful guest. It has been a really great show. We've enjoyed having you, and you've done a wonderful job. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
If you have any news or anything like that, feel free to call in to our show at any show and catch us up on any news. And we'd like to have you back on again in a few months when we see how you've progressed and what else may have happened to you in that time. Would that be okay?
That's great. Sounds great. I appreciate you guys even inviting me now to be on your show. It was a privilege.
Oh, it was a privilege to have you.
Hey, we're enjoying it.
Thank you so much for coming. Yes.
Sure.
Hey, Lauren, why don't you let everybody know what you're planning for next week's show so we can go ahead and do that. And Lonnie, we'll go ahead and say goodnight to you now, and thanks for coming on.
Sure, good night.
Good
night, Lonnie.
Thank you.
Nice meeting you all.
You too. Okay, so next week, we, the co-hosts, are going to interview Lori Phillips, the director of Nite Callers Radio, and see if we can dig some info out of her that's never been heard on air before. So if you'll join us next week, same time, same bat channel. What was that, Graz?
Shake some skeletons out of the closet.
Oh, Lord have mercy.
Let's see if we can get her really flustered.
Right, shake her up.
Huh.
That's the plan. So
good luck with that. Good luck with that. I'm a pro.
Oh,
bring it on. That's all I got to say.
She is a really good interviewee. She's a very good guest, so she might actually be kind of hard to shake up. So you guys bring your A game, and we'll see if we can put on a great show next week.
Yes, we'll see y'all next Sunday. And just see if these guys can shake me up. Well, I doubt it, but
that's the plan.
Anyway, it's going to be awesome. I'm going to enjoy being able to sit back and let you guys run the show and ask all the questions. That's going to be pretty cool.
We're looking forward to it as well.
He says evilly.
We get to have a round table with the boss. This is going to be a blast.
I know. Let's see how many times we can make her blush. We need to do this live.
Not going to happen. Not going to happen. Sure. Okay. Well, anyway, let's call it a wrap, and I will catch y'all on Skype.
Awesome.
Okay.
All right. Have a good week, everybody.
You too. And hey, everyone, thanks for coming and listening in. We appreciate each and every one of you that listens to Nite Callers Bigfoot Radio. So good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Raz, roll that outro.